There are two major announcements from Nikon today, including a new Nikon Z mirrorless system lens, which I am really excited about, which is the 14 to 30 millimeter f4S ultra wide angle zoom lens, and is something that I think has been really needed in this system since its announcement and release a few months ago. Basically, with native lenses, the widest you can go is 24 on the 24 to 70, and so there is kind of a hole there. Now, there are a ton of f lenses. They have a whole library of lenses that you can adapt to this camera, but having a native mount ultra wide angle like this is something that I think is desperately needed, and I think this lens looks really interesting. So I want to note that Nikon have not sent me a lens to review just yet. I hope that that will happen soon. They did send me the press release, and that was announced today. So hopefully in the coming months, that'll be something we'll be able to check out. But what I want to do is go through some of these specs and share some of my thoughts with you guys on this, because I think it's really important. So first off, they did send over some press images, and they really do look outstanding, not only in terms of overall contrast, but also in terms of edge-to-edge sharpness. And if these images are any indication of what you can expect out of this lens in normal usage, I think it is going to be absolutely fantastic. The other thing I want to note, this lens is a brand new optical formula, and this has some major implications in terms of size and some of the features that you have on it. I think it's really well thought out. There are 4 extra low dispersion elements and 4 aspherical elements, which is pretty standard in a wide-angle zoom like this. I haven't seen any MTF charts or any other optical data, but Nikon are saying that this will offer unparalleled control of distortion, I'm sure there was no pun intended there, as well as chromatic aberration. And in line with other Nikkor lenses, this will feature Nikon's anti-reflective Nano crystal coating, which is used to reduce ghosting and flare in challenging lighting situations. The other thing that I think is really impressive about this lens and the design, it is very compact and lightweight, which is another kind of key to mirrorless camera systems. And when retracted, it's about 3.5 inches long and weighs 485 grams, which is about a pound. If you compare this to the AFS Nikkor 16 to 35 millimeter f4G, it is about 28% lighter and 32% shorter. And compared to the AFS Nikkor 14 to 24 millimeter f2.8G, which is an amazing lens, it's about half the weight and about 35% shorter than the whole length. Now, when I talk about retractable, if you haven't seen the Nikon Z camera lenses, basically the 24 to 70 is a retractable design. So what this means is it's built so you can, it's a little bit shorter when it's not in use. And so when I'm ready to shoot with this, you can retract it out to 24. So you just basically save a little bit of length in terms of the overall design. And this lens is also light and compact, and so it will fit right in with the other system lenses, which I think is very cool. The other really nice thing about this, it is filter attachable. This is a first for a 14 millimeter FX format lens, and it features 82 millimeter filter threading. Now, what that means is typically when you have wide angle lenses, like if you've ever seen the Sony 12 to 24, they have, and this is not it, this is a older Panasonic Lumix, but they have this massive front element that sticks out, and it makes it really hard to provide filter threading on. And so typically with those kinds of lenses, you have to go to alternative solutions for adding filters onto the camera, which usually involves some kind of system that goes over the lens. That does not make it very portable or versatile in the terms of use. In fact, it's kind of, you're stuck with tripod usage on something like that. So being able to have a filter, having it lightweight and compact, and it goes as wide as 14 millimeters is pretty amazing. So autofocus is still stepping motor, which is kind of standard for Nikon these days, but it is quite enough to use in video or sensitive still shooting situations. Like other Nikkor Z lenses, the 14 to 30 millimeter f4 features a customizable control ring. And so basically you can map the control ring to be an aperture or an exposure compensation. It just gives you more functionality to the camera system as a whole. This lens is obviously fully compatible with the in-camera 5-axis vibration reduction found in the Z6 and Z7. Nikon say this provides up to 5 stops of image stabilization without adding to the size or weight of the lens. This lens is also optimized for video performance, so in addition to the near-silent autofocus motor, this lens is also designed to reduce focus breathing. And this is something that's really nice about the 24 to 70. If you're not sure what focus breathing is, it essentially means that the perceived crop or the perceived focal length of the lens changes depending on your focus. And so this isn't a big deal for still photography, it is a big deal in video. So if I'm doing a rack focus and I'm focused on something that's very close to the lens, and then I'm going to rack to focus on something that's further away, you don't want that breathing where your crop of your composition changes, and these lenses are designed to minimize that. So it's actually really nice. And I think it's kind of an overall ethos of the way that Nikon has approached these mirrorless lenses, in that they use internal focusing elements, and there's not a lot of moving that's going on, and they really do stay true to that. And it's really nice to see Nikon really taking video seriously in a lot of their marketing building materials, because that's something that they've done okay over the years and something they've kind of fallen behind on. And I've been using the Z6 for a lot of video stuff, and I can tell you it's pretty amazing. We'll get into the filmmaker kit in a second. Now, the press release doesn't state whether or not this is weather sealed, but it does say that it is designed for consideration to dust and drip resistance. So if you're near dust or dripping water, I think you're going to be fine. So a few points that I want to make on this lens. First of all, this is part of the roadmap that Nikon announced last year when this camera system was introduced. And there has been some criticism by a lot of people that a lot of the lenses, including the primes, should be bigger aperture. So if you have a 35mm lens, it should be a 1.4, not a 1.8. And some of these zoom lenses should be 2.8s and not f4s. And there's a couple reasons why I think that Nikon made that decision. They're all pretty good lenses. I've really enjoyed shooting. The 50mm 1.8 especially has been really good. There's a couple things I want to say about that. First of all, you have an entire library of f-mount lenses that Nikon have produced for years. They have not discontinued the DSLR, so they are still making those lenses. They have provided an adapter for you. Cost is another concern, as well as size. And so, for instance, if you were to make this an f2.8 lens, well, there is an f-mount lens, the 14 to 28mm, that fills that bill. And so if you're going to do this, not only is it close to what that is providing, but it's also, that is a massive lens. It doesn't have filter threading. It's got the huge, massive front element on it, and it's just a different beast. And I think what they've decided to do with this camera is provide an ultra-wide-angle zoom lens that does allow you to easily put on filters, that's compact, it's lightweight, it's easy to carry around. And I hate to say this, but this is the driving factor with everything, is it needs to be affordable. Nikon are brand new in the mirrorless system world, and I think that these were the right lenses to start with. And I know there are people that disagree with me on that. They want to see crazy optics, and of course there is the rumored Noct lens, which is an f.95 or 0.95 or what it is, crazy shallow depth of field. That lens will be very expensive. It will also probably not have autofocus, and that's a different kind of thing entirely. These were the right lenses to do, because when you're trying to get people to adapt into a mirrorless system, I think it needs to be somewhat affordable, and that's one of the challenges that Nikon are facing right now. Having said that, they've done an excellent job optically with these lenses. I do have some minor complaints, and I'm going to do some videos later on where we really dig down into the current Z System mirrorless lineup. But I think for the most part, for the value that you're getting, with the money that you're going to spend on them, they do very well. Now, in terms of this second announcement with the filmmaker's kit, I don't think this is anything that's obviously earth-shattering, but I think it does say one thing, and it says that Nikon are committed to video. When I went on the press trip for the Nikon Z6 last year, I had a lot of fun, and when I was talking to some of the Nikon employees, there were technical managers, people in those positions, they were all saying that there is definitely, finally, a commitment to video from Nikon, and especially with the Z6, which basically gives you a full pixel readout without any line skipping, pixel bending, and so on and so forth. They really have created a camera that does really well for video application. I think the autofocus has some room for improvement, but for a first release, I think it does extremely well, and I think doing a video kit bundle basically expresses that commitment. Now, I do think that that's actually a pretty cool thing. In fact, after that trip, we were able to use the Atomos Ninja 5, which is basically it's a monitor that also acts as a recorder. So you basically slip a hard drive into the back of this, but it is like a Swiss Army knife for video making. That's why I ended up buying one. I'm using it right now to record this on, because not only does it adapt to a host of different cameras, but also supports Nikon, but it really gives you a lot of flexibility in how you're able to record. And so, for instance, on the Nikon Z6, you can now get a 10-bit video signal out of, and it does look better in the end, especially if you're using the Nikon F-Log. And actually, with the Nikon log profile, I'm pretty sure you have to use the recorder. You can't do that internally. So it does open up a lot of possibilities on that camera. And then having a handheld gimbal is a very cool thing too. I have not tried the Moza yet, but I know several people who have one, and they swear by it. They say it's one of the best. So I think it's a pretty cool thing. The only thing that's kind of weird is they have this bundle that, at least according to the press releases, does not include any batteries or a hard drive for the Ninja. And those are things that you're going to need, and they will add to the cost a little bit. But I think what it is it's a statement saying that, hey, we're committed to video. And so this is one thing that we want to really communicate with that. So I'm really excited about both these things, particularly this ultra wide angle zoom lens. Would love to know what you guys think. So please drop me a comment and give me your thoughts. And we'll talk about some Nikon stuff in coming videos. This is the second video I've done for this year. It's the second one I've done today. And I'm not going to be doing 2 a day, but I'm really excited to be doing a lot of new stuff this year and a lot of new surprises as well. So anyway, without further ado, I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, later.